Houston. Houston, we have a problem. DJ Apollo has landed. I repeat, DJ Apollo has landed.
You are listening to the Tales of Music and Film podcast. My name is Christian Taylor, and for today, I will be your host. And I just want to start by saying thank you for clicking on today's episode. We are going to have ourselves some good old-fashioned fun today. The movie we're talking about, it's a real good one. You're going to love it. But first, I want to start by saying I hope you are doing extremely well, and I hope you're having a very excellent Saturday. The weather is absolutely spectacular here in my hometown. It's very gorgeous, and it's got me in a very, very good mood. Now, I've spent this last week trying to think of a good film to cover today, and I've been bouncing back and forth. I was thinking, how about I could do Beetlejuice, I could do the original Blade Runner. I was just bouncing back and forth with ideas, but then it occurred to me that we have a Halloween film in the franchise that's 35 years old this year. I am, of course, talking about Halloween 5, which came out on October 13th, 1989, and it's a direct sequel to Halloween 4, which came out the previous year. Now, I have a very controversial opinion regarding this film. There are several Halloween groups that I follow on Facebook, and I will give them a quick little shout out. The Legacy of Halloween fans, I love 80s and 90s horror, Halloween franchise, Michael Myers fan club, and Halloween 1978, 1981, 2018, and 2021. To all you guys, the fan pages are amazing. I love getting my posts on there, getting to share my love for this Halloween franchise with all you fellow fans. So I love those Facebook fan pages. They are amazing, and I love being able to share my thoughts on the film and getting all kinds of cool feedback from fellow fans. Now, I've noticed many times when I go on these fan pages that there is a lot of love for Halloween 5, but I have noticed a good amount of hatred towards it as well. And I just want to start by saying that this is just my opinion. I'm not trying to bash this film in any way, shape, or form. It's just like with Alien 3 when I covered that movie. If you like that movie or this one, that's just fine. Now, me personally, I am not a fan of Halloween 5. I watched this movie for the very first time about, I would say, around 5 or 6 years ago. So I was around probably 18 when I watched this for the first time. So I was really late to the party with the Halloween franchise. I didn't start watching horror movies a lot till I was a lot older. The very first horror film I believe I ever watched was Aliens, and it became my favorite movie back when I was around 16 years old. So, but yeah, I was late to the party. But hey, there's nothing wrong with that. But anyways, with the Halloween franchise, it's one of my favorite franchises of all time. I love the Halloween films. My favorites will always be the original Halloween, Halloween 2, Halloween 4, and the 2018 Halloween reboot, and it's kind of like a reboot, but yeah, the 2018 Halloween, then Halloween's 1 and 2 and 4. Those are my top 4 favorite Halloween films. I even liked Halloween Kills a little bit, even though there was a lot of problems with that film as well. And Halloween Ends, I'm not even going to say anything about it. Like, if you'd seen Halloween Ends, like, you know. And I will go into more detail with the Blumhouse trilogy towards the end of the recording. But anyway, I love this franchise to death. I think they're amazing. I'm even starting to like Halloween 3 a little more. Didn't know what to think of it at first, but I'm starting to enjoy it a lot more. But with Halloween 5, I just don't like it. And there are many reasons for this, and I'll get to that here in a minute. But again, I'm not going to bash this movie. This is just my own interpretation of this movie. So don't think for a second that this is just going to be a long take of me being extremely negative toward the film. That's not the case. I just wanted to clarify that. So, before we go any further, I figured it'd be a good idea to maybe read just a little brief description on the plot for this movie. So, After lying in a coma for a year, Michael Myers, played by Donald L. Shanks, awakens and stalks his way back to his small hometown in Illinois, and he is intent on killing his niece, Jamie, played by Danielle Harris, who has been confined in a mental institution since Michael's last attempt to slay her. Suspecting a psychic link between Michael and Jamie, psychiatrist Dr. Sam Loomis, played by Donald Pleasance, joins forces with Sheriff Ben Meeker, played by Beau Starr, and attempts to stop Michael's latest rampage. Now, as I said before, this movie is a direct sequel to Halloween 4, which came out the previous year, and Halloween 4 could potentially be my favorite Halloween film out of the entire franchise. I love this movie, and I think it did an amazing job, because you gotta remember, with the if I remember correctly, from what I've read, Halloween 3 got a lot of negative feedback because John Carpenter, so originally, I believe I may have mentioned this when I covered the original Halloween on this podcast. I'd highly recommend you go watch that episode. I had a lot of fun recording that as well. But I seem to remember in that recording that I did mention that John Carpenter, who was the director of the original Halloween, he did not want to make any sequels. He wanted Halloween to be a one-time thing, one and done, but the movie got so popular, so a few years later, a sequel was made, Halloween 2, which he did not direct, but he was a producer for it, and he helped with like the music, and I believe he also did help out with the writing of the film as well, with like the screenplay and stuff, but he was not the director for it. And then Halloween 2 kind of wrapped out the story, for him anyway, with Michael burning to death at the end. So he's like, okay, he wanted to do this like anthology project, I believe that's the correct word for this. He wanted to make a series of films where each movie had a different villain. Like, he wanted to continue the Halloween franchise, but instead of Michael, each movie was going to have, like, a different threat and characters. Like, it wouldn't be sequels. And he attempted this with Halloween 3, but unfortunately the film got a lot of negative feedback. And, I mean, it is a little confusing, because for me, I don't think it should be called Halloween 3, because it has nothing to do with Michael. Like, this movie is not connected to any of the other Halloween films. It's its own thing. Like, there's literally a scene where Tom Atkins' character, he's the main character in the film, he's sitting at a bar, and he looks up at the TV, and there's a commercial for a dual pack of the first two Halloween films on VHS. It's kind of just like a little inside joke. But Halloween 3 had nothing to do with any of the Halloween movies. And with Michael not being in it, I'm sure it probably confused a lot of people, including me. Like, wait a minute, how is this a Halloween film? Like, Michael's not even in this. Like, where's Laurie? Like, there's nobody from the previous films are in this. Like, why is it called Halloween 3? And I believe with Halloween 3, the mindset that you have to have is just take Halloween out of the title and just call it Season of the Witch. When you disconnect this movie from the Halloween franchise and you imagine it as its own thing, it's actually a really good film. But unfortunately, a lot of people didn't like Halloween 3, and the franchise kind of died out a little bit because of that film. So about 6 years later, Halloween 4 came out, and it was called The Return of Michael Myers. And 4 was tasked with the job of trying to revive the franchise, and I think Ford did that with flying colors. Like, it was great. But unfortunately, Jamie Lee Curtis, who plays Laurie Strode, she played Laurie in the first two movies, she said no to coming back for Halloween 4, so they had to do some creative writing to make it make sense to why she's not there. So they came up with the idea of, because this movie takes place 10 years after the events of the first two films, because Halloween's 1 and 2 take place on the same night, which is Halloween 1978. So Halloween 4 takes place, 10 years later in 1988, and the main character in this film is Laurie Strode's daughter, whose name is Jamie. Now, we find out in Halloween 4 is that Laurie and her husband were killed in a car accident, and Jamie is now living with her foster family. And we did get this pretty nice scene of her looking at pictures of Laurie. And so you can really feel the impact of what Jamie's going through on losing her parents, you know. But, I mean, I think at the very least it was good that they were able to get a picture of Laurie Strode in there. Just to help with the continuity a little bit. But anyway, so Jamie, who was played by Danielle Harris, great actress, by the way, she's the main character in Halloween's 4 and 5. And 4 is just a great movie altogether. I might have to do a separate recording talking about that, but the film did an amazing job of reviving the franchise, and I'll get more into this here in a minute, but I think the franchise is really cursed with trying to get a solid trilogy out, but I'll get more into that later. So 4, it was a big success, and I think one of the reasons for that was the film's ending, which, another thing, I'll get into here in a moment. So let's get back to Halloween 5. I know I went on a Halloween 4 tangent for a second, so just bear with me. We're going to get this back on track. So Halloween 5, again, it was released in the United States on October 13th, 1989. The director, his name is Dominic Othen Gennard. The movie was distributed by Anchor Bay Entertainment. And of course, based on characters by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill. The movie had a box office of $11.6 million in the U.S., and the movie's budget was $5.5 million, so it made a good amount of money. And, you know, by today's standards, that's a very low budget to have, but that's one of the things about the Halloween franchise that I think works so well, is that they are prime examples of low-budget filmmaking, and that is a trend that, as far as I'm concerned, it's dying out. Because, you know, in today's modern world, every film that comes out now has like these insane budgets that makes the film even harder to make its money back because of how big the budget is. Like, I've seen some insane budgets for films where they would have to do extremely well just to make its money back, you know? But anyway, I've talked about that many times before, but like, you know, with like the Halloween franchise, the Evil Dead movies, for example, it shows you what happens when, if you have a good story, like, you shouldn't worry so much about having a big budget. As long as your story is good, that's all that matters. So, the Halloween 5 cast, we have Danielle Harris, who played Jamie. We have the late, great Donald Pleasence, who plays Loomis, one of the best characters in the Halloween franchise. Rest in peace to Donald Pleasence. Don Shanks, Ellie Cornell, Tamara Glenn, Wendy Kaplan, Jeffrey Landman, and Bo Starr. And those are the main cast members for Halloween 5. And I'll get more into the cast here in a minute, and I'll go into one of the reasons why I think the film didn't work so well regarding its character list. But anyway, we'll get more into that here in a moment. Now, there is a big talking point that I may go on a long tangent for, but it's really important. So one of the reasons why I think Halloween 4 worked so well was the film's ending. Now, Halloween 4, in my opinion, has the greatest ending in the entire franchise, and nothing was done with it. And Halloween 5 does everything in its power to ruin and absolutely destroy Halloween 4's epic ending. It's one of the main reasons why I don't like Halloween 5, is that it wasted this amazing moment to take the franchise in a brand new direction away from Michael Myers. And the guy when Dominic directed this film, he did not really consider continuing the story that D.Y.H. Little had left, open for a possible sequel. And it just seems to me that Dominic and his team just wasted a very amazing opportunity to take, the Halloween franchise in a brand new direction and have a brand new killer, for the franchise. So I just want to clarify. So Halloween 4's ending is where Michael is finally killed. He gets gunned down by the police, and Jamie and her stepsister, Rachel, who's played by Ellie Cornell, they were the main characters in the movie. But anyway, they're saved. The cops gun down Michael. He falls down a mine shaft, and that's it. And they think that, they've won. The evil is finally gone. Haddonfield can go back to normal. Jamie's stepmom takes her upstairs, to take a bath and change her out of her dirty Halloween costume. And she happens to be wearing the same kind of Halloween costume that her uncle Michael wore in the opening of the original Halloween. So just to clarify, for anyone who hasn't seen the Halloween franchise, so Michael Myers is the killer of the franchise, and you find out in Halloween 2 that he's going after Jamie Lee Curtis's character, and her character's name is Laurie Strode. She's the main female lead for a good majority of the films in this franchise, and you find out in Halloween 2 that Michael and Laurie are siblings. So Michael Myers is Jamie's uncle. So there's a blood connection between them. And you find out that Michael is trying to wipe out his remaining bloodline members till he's the last one, because the original Halloween opens up with Michael when he was around 6, 7, 8 years old, and he kills his older sister Judith Myers in her room by stabbing her with a giant knife. And then he is sent to a penitentiary for a good amount of years while his psychologist or psychiatrist named Loomis tries to get him to open up. But Loomis does not get Michael to talk at all, and Michael ends up being in the penitentiary for about 15 years. When Michael killed his sister back in the opening of the original film, it took place on Halloween night 1963. Then there's a 15-year time jump to Halloween of 1978, and Michael is now around 21 years old by this point, and he's going after Laurie because she's the only family member he has left. So now, you cut to Halloween 4, Laurie was killed in a car accident, so now that just leaves Jamie. So Michael spends Halloweens 4 and 5 going after Jamie. And going back to 4's ending, so I just wanted to make sure that you guys had this additional information so you understand the parallels between this to Halloween 4's ending to the opening of the original. So Jamie's stepmom takes her upstairs, like I said, to take a bath, and we get the exact same opening shot from Jamie's eye view. She picks up a mask, puts it on, and she's wearing a Halloween costume very similar to the one that Michael was wearing when he was around her age when he killed Judith. So Jamie walks down the hall and stabs and kills her stepmom, and the others downstairs hear the stepmother screaming. They run to the stairs and they see Jamie standing there on top of the staircase with bloody scissors in her hands with a mask, and she's breathing super hard just like Michael did, and Loomis is losing his mind screaming no, no, because the cycle has now started all over again. The evil has left Michael, and now now the evil is now in Jamie, and now she is the new killer. It's such a big plot twist moment. We just see her standing there and she raises the scissors up, ready to kill the next person that gets toward her. Then it just cuts to the credits, and then that's it. It is one of the biggest plot twist endings I've ever seen. It's like you think you won, but now the cycle starts all over again. Loomis and the others are right back to square one. Like, it is insane. It's chilling. And it gets me every time I see it. It's such an amazing ending. But then 5 shows up, and it's like, you know what? Yeah, we're going to retract that whole thing and completely ruin it. So Halloween 5 opens up. We see it, they kind of did a Back to the Future kind of thing where we see reused footage from 4's ending just to show people what happened at the end of 4. We see the police officers shooting up Michael, and he falls down the mine shaft and they drop TNT into it, but Michael climbs out, into a river before the TNT goes off, and he gets carried down a river, and then this random, homeless guy finds him and drags him out of the river and takes him back to his abandoned house that he's living in, and he just randomly nurses his Michael back to health. But I'll get more into that here in a minute. And you find out that the Halloween 5 is saying that, oh yeah, Jamie did not become the new killer. She was just possessed by Michael's anger and stuff. 5 introduces this new thing, that there's this psychic link between Jamie and Michael. So it's like Michael found a way to possess Jamie and make her stab her mother. But don't worry, the mom didn't die. She's fine. It was just a stab in the shoulder. She's okay. Jamie didn't do anything wrong. Everything's fine now. And Jamie is now in a mental institution, and they also do another thing where she doesn't talk for a good majority of the film, and I believe the reason for this was because of all the trauma she went through. But within, the first 5 minutes, 4's ending is completely ruined. Jamie's back to her normal self, she didn't become the next killer. And it was such a wasted opportunity, Can you imagine how cool 5 would have been if they had went this route, and how 6 could have been just as cool? You had, this whole trilogy could have been dedicated to Jamie being the next killer in the franchise. That would have been incredible. I wish we could have gotten to see that. And I cannot believe that they didn't do this. And more evidence that I want to share with you is that Donald Pleasence, who plays Loomis, he even agreed on this. I did some digging, right? And I found some information about the filmmaking, and Donald Pleasence was very vocal about his disappointment with the story for Halloween 5. He said that he was very disappointed with the story that was written for this sequel, and he was very disappointed with the way director Dominic, Gennard was trying to get him to play Loomis as a totally heavy and just an overbearing character. Pleasence also felt that the success and shock ending of Halloween 4 was not being capitalized on. I'm like, yes, absolutely. I could not agree with him more. Surely so many of the fans were disappointed just like me, come on. It's like what Alien 3 did with Aliens, where the film goes so hard out of its way to try to erase, Aliens and make it completely pointless. And 5 does the same. In Halloween 5, it's doing that with Halloween 4. And I have many more talking points about how 5 really tries its best to erase 4, but I'll get more into that. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about, so I have a long list of talking points about why I disliked 5, and one of the reasons is that I think Halloween 5 ruined Loomis, because one of the key things that I really enjoyed about Dr. Loomis, he's a great character. The way he was in Halloween's 1, 2, and 4 is that he understands Michael better than anyone else. He was his psychiatrist for 15 years. He knows how his brain operates and what he is, just pure evil. But Loomis had this very big, caring side to him. He tries super hard to try to reach Michael and get him to stop the horrible things that he's doing. Loomis fails every single time, but he tries. He's really trying to show that he still cares about Michael. We get little snippets of that in Halloween 5, but still, he has a very big, caring side, he protects Laurie Strode in both films. He makes sure that everybody's doing okay. The guy has a big heart. He's a very caring person who wants to save as many people from Michael as possible. That was one of the things I love about his character, but then 5 shows up, and then it completely strips Loomis of one of his character traits that made him a very good character, which is, again, his caring side. Loomis, throughout the entire, runtime of Halloween 5, he comes off as this big, narcissistic jerk, and I saw a comment once, I believe, on a YouTube video. Like I may have been watching like a scene or something from 5, and then someone left a comment saying that I think in this film Loomis was just fed up with Michael's crap, like he just snapped in this film. But for me, like, that's no excuse. Like, Loomis went through so much stuff in Halloween's 1, 2, and 4, but he still stayed, a caring, good person who did everything in his power to save lives. And that is completely non-existent in Halloween 5. Like, I'm not kidding you. Like, there's literally a moment towards the end of the film when the final battle's happening, he literally uses Jamie as bait. Like, Michael is standing near him with a knife, and he's holding Jamie in front of him, and Michael could easily injure her. Like, he used her as bait. I'm like, Loomis in 4, 2, and 1 would not have done that. He would not put that child in any kind of danger. And it's like, keep in mind, right, Jamie is like 9 years old at this point. She's a child. And there are several scenes throughout the film where Loomis is just being a complete narcissist towards her. Like, she's in the hospital trying to recover, and Loomis is, like, in her face, like, what is the connection? Tell me. He's, like, shaking her, like, tell me what's the psychic connection between you and Michael. Like, Loomis, first off, back away. Give this poor child some space. She's a kid. Leave her alone. What is wrong with you? Like, she went through so much trauma in the last film. She's trying to process and get better, and you're in her face, constantly bombarding her with questions. Like, back off and calm the heck down. You know what I mean? It's irritating. Like, it doesn't, like, this is not the Loomis from the previous Halloween films. Like, who is this? So, in my opinion, I think 5 did Dr. Loomis very dirty and completely stripped him of the things that made him a good character. And 6 kind of did fix the damage a little bit, but still, the damage was already done. In Halloween 6, that could be its own recording. I'll mention it a little more, as we progress through this recording. So, additional information. So, Donald Pleasence had disagreements with Akkad and Othan Gennard, citing that Jamie should have been portrayed as all evil after stabbing her stepmother. Akkad disagreed, thinking that fans wanted to see more of the Shape, which is Michael Myers. In an interview, Danielle Harris explained what she thought of the idea. The way Halloween 4 ended, I thought I was going to be the killer. I thought it would be fun to come back as the killer or Michael's sidekick. Scary, but fun. Now, honestly, that would have been a good idea as well. Maybe had her and Michael killing people at the same time. Like, I would have enjoyed that too. Like, that would have been a cool idea. She legit thought that she was going to be the killer in this film. But, I mean, I have to disagree. Maybe there were some people who wanted to see more of the Shape, but I'm pretty sure most majority of fans were actually pretty excited to see Jamie as the new killer, Then 5 just shows up and completely just wipes that very idea from existence. Here's some more additional information. So we're going to be moving on here. So, the film's first screenplay, which was written by Shem Bitterman, featured Jamie Lloyd and Michael Myers as dual antagonists, which that would have been amazing. I would have paid, like, if I was a young 20-year-old, back in the late 80s, like, I would have paid, take my money now. Like, I want to see that idea, I still want to see that idea now. With a new teenage Jamie going on a killing spree of her own, Myers attempting to kill her because she was unwillingly interfering with his own spree, and Rachel being caught in the middle. Executive producer Mustafa Akkad disliked the screenplay, feeling it felt more like a parody of the Halloween series than an actual entry in it. and also because he had already promised Danielle Harris that she would be allowed to return as Jamie, and did not think that the 12-year-old Harris would be credible as a serial killer. As a result, the screenplay was rewritten essentially from scratch by Michael Jacobs and director Dominic Othen-Gennard, though Bitterman remained credited for contractual reasons. Now, I'm saying this right now, that would not have been a parody of the franchise if they had went with the original idea. Like, Michael and Jamie being, a tag team of killers, like, that sounds like a very amazing idea. I think it'd be better if it was just Jamie, but Jamie and Michael, like, that would have worked, as well. I really would have enjoyed seeing that. I really do. I think Danielle Harris could have pulled it off. I really do. She would have been an amazing killer for the franchise. Yes, I know she was 12 at the time, but still, yeah, she's a 12-year-old girl, but I mean, kids can still be scary in horror films. Like, we've seen that many, many times in other scary movies. So I think Jamie would have been great as a new killer. I think, and this in the screenplay, another thing that I like about it, it actually gives the main character Rachel something to do. Because I'm not kidding you, like, one of the things about this film that drove me crazy is that it does what Alien 3 did, where it kills off, an important character within the first 5 minutes of the film. So Rachel, who is Jamie's stepsister, she protects Jamie throughout the entire film of Halloween 4, and she survives Halloween 4, right? Literally within the first 10 minutes, she has like one or two scenes in the movie, and then she's killed off, and we don't see her for the rest of the movie. Jamie finds her dead body in an attic during the very end of the film. Like, it's like they had no idea what to do with Rachel, so it's like, okay, let's just kill her off, and she's not that important. I'm like, no, Rachel is a very important character. Why did you kill her off within the first 10 minutes? You're telling me you couldn't think of anything for her to do. Like, are you kidding me? It's just like Alien 3, man. When they killed off Hicks and Newt within the first 5 minutes, like, it's the same thing. I'm just like, why? Why would you do that? Anyway, now the next thing that drives me crazy about this film is the opening where this random guy just takes care of Michael for an entire year. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, Michael, the minute he wakes up, he just kills the guy instantly, and then that's the end of it. Like, what was the whole point? Like, why did this man take care of Michael? Like, is there something I don't know? When I was doing digging about facts about Halloween 5, one of the things I found, so here's what the text tells me. The old hermit from the opening scene was originally scripted as a younger man named Dr. Death who had a fascination with the occult. His shack was supposed to be filled with ancient ruins and tablets, and he attempted to bring Michael back to life after finding him. This scene was filmed and can be seen in Inside Halloween 5 from the year 2000. But it seems that they didn't do this in the original film. Like, my interpretation, it was just this random homeless guy. Oh, look, a giant buff guy wearing a creepy mask. I want to take him back to my house and nurse him back to health. What could possibly go wrong? And then Michael just kills him, and then that's it. I mean, it's just like, did this guy not stop for 1 second and think, wait a minute, there is something very sketchy about this, But anyway, I just thought that was completely silly that this random guy just takes care of this, guy wearing a creepy mask, but anyway. So, the parallels to Friday the 13th. So, this film has a lot of parallels to another famous scary franchise, which is Friday the 13th. Now, shocking info here, but I have not seen any of the Friday the 13th films. I have not seen any of them. And what's funny is, I literally own a pack on Blu-ray with all of the Friday the 13th films. And I'll have to get around to watching them at some point. But yeah, I have yet to see any of them. So, I know, I'm an uncultured swine. I apologize. But I did see a good amount of I think it was Friday the 13th Part 4. I've seen most of it, so I understand what this next info I'm about to share with you is talking about. So, the parallels to Friday the 13th, the character of Jamie Lloyd has a striking parallel to the Tommy Jarvis character from Friday the 13th series. Both characters appeared in the 4th, 5th, and 6th films of their respective series. They were both about the same age in their first appearance. They both become institutionalized and develop homicidal tendencies themselves after the killer. In this film, Jamie starts out as a mute. In the Friday the 13th, Tommy rarely speaks. At the end of that film, Tommy is seen holding a knife and essentially becomes Jason. At the end of Halloween 4, Jamie is seen holding a pair of scissors and essentially becomes the next, Michael Myers. Now, both franchises were in this situation, right, where they could have taken their franchises in a brand new direction, but it's like the director of the next sequel thinks that these franchises are all about this one killer, so they completely destroy and abandon these ideas that would have worked out extremely well. But it is pretty crazy, though. I never realized, the amount of parallels between, this particular story in Halloween and the Friday the 13th series. I thought that was pretty crazy, how similar they really are. Now, another talking point that this is just a quick little side note here, but I remember one time I did leave a comment on a Halloween post on one of those fan pages that I gave a mention of earlier. And a post I made, I was talking about how, I consider Halloween's 1, 2, and 4 as a solid trilogy because 4's ending works so well with, the cycle just starts all over again, and it's a very haunting thing, It kind of reminds me of that quote from the first season of True Detective where one of the bad guys that Rusty Cole captures, he says this quote that life is just a flat circle where the same thing just happens over and over again and you can't stop it. And that rings very true with these 3 movies. But yeah, 5 for me and even 6 did everything in their power to completely destroy this amazing story that 4 built and started off extremely well. But then Halloween's 5 and 6 just show up and completely rip it apart until there's just nothing left. If you think 5 was bad, holy cow, man. Halloween 6, which is called The Curse of Michael Myers, dude, this story, it's what is even happening at this point when you get to 6, right? It's insane. And, while speaking of Halloween 6, I want to talk about Jamie Lloyd for a second, who's the main character in 5 and 6. Dude, Jamie deserved so much better. You want to talk about a character that got completely screwed over and just outright just destroyed. What happens to Jamie in 5 and 6? It's so horrible. Where do you even start? Halloween 5, she literally loses her stepsister. She loses, friends. I think she might have even lost her step-parents. And she's already lost her biological parents as well. Halloween 5 ends with her completely alone. And then Halloween 6 opens up. It's oh, you don't think things can get any worse? Halloween 6 shows up. Hold my beer for a second, viewer. So, Halloween 6 literally opens up with Jamie now as a young adult. And she's giving birth to a baby. And a friend of mine who is a fan of this franchise told me something. Now, I don't know 100% if this is true or not. Because I'm not up to code necessarily with the entire lore of this franchise. But my friend told me that apparently she was impregnated by Michael through the Thorn occult. And I'm just so you're telling me Michael just straight up, molested his own, sister. Like, that is just absolutely, like, that's just next level of just, like, just pure evil. And it's just, like, that just seems completely out of character for Michael. Like, he's just an unstoppable force, right? He's just a killer. Like, he is the boogeyman who cannot be stopped. And that's what he is. So this whole idea of him impregnating his own sister, like, that doesn't fit the story in any kind of way. And then, like, Jamie's, she gives birth to her son, and she tries, a nurse who helped deliver the baby feels bad about Jamie because the Thorn Occult was just going to take the baby and use it for, like, this ritual or something. Like, we'll get more into the Thorn Occult here in a second. But anyway, this nurse helps Jamie escape with her baby, and then Michael goes after them. And Jamie makes it to, like, a bus station. She hides her son at the station, drives off. Michael follows her, right? And then Michael makes her crash her vehicle onto, like, this farm property. And then Michael chases her, grabs her, and he literally impales her with a piece of farming equipment, and then she just dies. And that's the end of Jamie. Like, holy crap, man. Like, I cannot believe they did that with Jamie's character. Like, after everything she went through in Halloween's 4 and 5, just to die like that, it's like it makes you wonder, why even bother watching 4 and even 5, Like, 6 goes even further with just destroying the story of the first 2 films. Like, by the time you get to 6, you just wonder, it's just like, what is even happening anymore? Like, where is the story going? Like, this film has lost the plot, like, altogether. And it's just like, man, Jamie deserved so much better than what she got. Now, with Halloween 5, there are a couple of good scenes. I want to make this clear. There are still good scenes in this movie. Like, one of my favorite scenes in Halloween 5 is towards the very end of the film with the interaction between Jamie and Michael. Like, it's literally, like, I'm pretty sure this is the only time that Michael showed his human side. The one and only time. And Jamie is laying in a casket, waiting for Michael to kill her because she's lost all hope by this point, because this is going back to what I was saying earlier, where she goes up into an attic in the Myers house and she finds Rachel's body just sitting in a chair. And by this point, she's just completely given up. Like, everybody who's tried to help her have either been maimed or just killed. So she's literally all on her own by this point. So she's kind of like, she just lays in the casket, waiting for Michael to kill her. But then Michael stops and he just stares at her for a little bit. Then I believe he leans down next to her. Then he takes off the mask and we see a tear coming down his face. And it's actually a very beautiful moment showing, oh, Mike, there's actually some good in Michael after all. Now, another thing that I want to say, I don't know 100% if this is true or not. Maybe you guys can help me out with this. But it seems to me that the film was implying that the whole time Michael was being controlled by the Thorn cult. Like, they were the ones controlling him. Like, he never wanted to kill anybody. It's the occult, like, possessing and controlling him. I don't know if that's what 5 was implying, but if that's the case, I mean, I still don't like that idea, like, whatsoever, because, Halloween's 1, 2, and 4, they established that Michael is the boogeyman. He is just the unstoppable force that you can't kill no matter what you do. Like, the whole Thorn Occult it was a very silly idea that never should have been, a thing. But I'll get back to the Thorn Occult talking point here in a second. But another good scene in this film was, again, towards the end of the movie, where Loomis tries one last time to try to connect with Michael. So, Loomis convinces Michael to follow him back to the Myers house, and Loomis tries to chat with him, trying to get him to realize what he's doing is wrong. So finally, in Halloween 5, we get to see little snippets of that caring side slowly starting to come back, but it doesn't last. And it just shows you that even after all the horrible things that Michael has done, Loomis is still trying to help him. He never gave up on him, at least not in this movie. And it was a nice little scene. I really did enjoy it. He's just telling him, listen, you can kill as many people as you want. It's not going to stop that rage that's built up in you. It was a very, very, very good scene. Well directed. It's very good. I actually really enjoyed it. And this next thing that I want to read to you guys is this nice comment that I found, because I was watching the attic scene on YouTube, and I found this really awesome comment that goes into good detail explaining the context of Michael taking off his mask and looking at Jamie while she lays there in the casket. So this comment comes from Caleb Graham 6166, and this person said, "The ancient evil spirit that possessed Michael Myers was blocked out, and the real Michael Myers took control when he heard Jamie call out to him saying, 'Uncle.' Michael had two reasons for crying in this scene. Number one, Jamie was actually treating Michael like he was family for the first time in a long time. Number two, he was crying out for help because he was being controlled by Thorn, and the only way to reverse the curse was to use the opposite ruins that they used on him, on Samhain, aka Halloween night. But when Jamie touched him, the ancient evil spirit took control again, and it looked like Michael was trying to tell Jamie to get out of here quickly." Now, if that's true, I like the concept, kinda, about, Michael's trying to show, listen, get out of here before I go evil again. It's kind of a cool idea. It was nice to finally see Michael, even after seeing the horrible things that he's done, get some semblance of love towards a family member, even though it was extremely brief. But my problem with this scene is that it doesn't last long enough, and it's completely rushed over. Michael goes back, to being a stone cold killer within the snap of fingers. It didn't last long enough, and it just didn't seem like it went anywhere. We don't see anything like this in Halloween 6 or any of the other sequels after Halloween 5. So again, it makes you wonder, what was the whole point of that scene? If they had expanded upon it more, it would have made more sense. But it was just so quick and instantaneous, it was just what was the point? It's okay, Michael showed human emotion for once in his life, but it didn't go anywhere. But I liked the idea. I just think it should have been expanded upon just a little more. And finally, I want to address the Thorn occult. Now, it's introduced in Halloween 5, and the whole cult thing is stupid. I never liked it at all. And, Michael has this symbol on his wrist for the Thorn cult, group, and that symbol was clearly not on his wrist in the previous installments. This whole cult idea was extremely ridiculous, and the minute that was introduced in this film, I just think Halloween 5 was when we really started to enter very, very, goofy territory with this franchise. And then, 5 and onward just dug a hole going into the silly route, just even more. I never liked the Thorn cult idea, and they added these scenes with this random guy wearing a black fedora with a black trench coat, carrying a briefcase or something. We see him 3 different times throughout the film. And there's a reveal in Halloween 6 that he was the one in charge of the cult, and he was the one who set Michael free at the end of Halloween 5. Like, him and the cult broke into the police station and took Michael with them back to their cult location. And you find out that the man in the black hat was this, random doctor that we saw for like 2 minutes back in the original Halloween. He was the guy that Loomis was talking to, telling him, like, listen, I had the police set up roadblocks, and he still got away. For God's sake, Loomis, he doesn't know how to drive a car. It was that guy. That one random doctor that we saw for a few minutes. Hey, remember him? He's the main villain now. And he's in charge of a cult that's obsessed with Michael. And I'm just sitting there like, what? Like, I don't even know what to say about that. This random guy that we saw for 2 minutes, and I'm pretty sure most of us probably don't even remember him. But yeah, he is now the main villain of Halloween 6. I'm just sitting there just like, okay then. I don't really care that much, if I'm being honest here. But those scenes of him just walking around, mysteriously in the night in Halloween 5, it's just like, what's the point? I feel like those scenes could have been cut and it wouldn't have changed anything. And the film struggles a little bit with continuity. And the first two examples that come to my head is the design of the Myers house. So, apparently they couldn't find, like, a house that looked similar to the original Myers house from 1978 and 1981. So they just turned the Myers house into this giant mansion because it allowed them to have more space in the rooms to make it easier to film in those locations. But it did bug me a lot with the continuity. It's like the Myers were not, rich. They were living in a standard, small house, Like, it just kind of bugged me a little bit. Then in Halloween 6, the house completely changes again. And it's just like, Halloween 5 and 6 did struggle quite a bit with continuity. And another quick little tangent that I want to discuss right quick is the Myers mask. Now, I'm saying this right now, like, the Myers mask was possibly at its worst in this movie. Like, I didn't like the mask design at all. And I actually found some information going into detail about this. So, like, the franchise is very cursed with getting the Myers mask correctly. Like, the original mask from 1978 was so perfect, but unfortunately, in Halloween 2, they used a different mask, and it gets destroyed, so Halloween 4 had to come up with, with Myers getting a new mask, because, at the end of Halloween 2, Michael is set on fire, and the original mask is burned and destroyed. So in Halloween 4, Michael breaks into a Halloween store and steals a new mask, and that's like one of the only things about 4 that I didn't like was the mask design, and they somehow got it worse in Halloween 5. The mask in this film just looks horrible and very cursed. Like, the shape for it just didn't look right to me. Now, the reason why it looks so different, like, John Shanks was originally set to wear the same mask that the Myers actor in Halloween 4 wore, but to help retain consistency between the films, but the mask did not fit Shanks' head, so they had to make a new one from scratch, and I just didn't like the design for it at all. It looks too, like, triangular shaped, if that makes sense. It just didn't look that scary to me. Like, the mask itself looked like they were trying to do a parody of the Myers mask, I'm not able to take Michael that seriously in this film just off the mask alone. And come to find out, Halloween 5 actually is the lowest grossing film in the franchise. According to Box Office Mojo, this film only made $11.5 million against its $5.5 budget. It did make a good amount of money back, but it is still the lowest grossing film in the franchise. Now, I wanted to take a minute right quick and give a shout out to the Myers actor for Halloween 5, Don Shanks. Now, apparently from what I've heard, he was an extremely nice guy during the filmmaking for this. And he did his own stunts in this film, so I have to give him a shout out for that. So Don Shanks was also injured when he was filming the scene where the shape crashes Mike's Camaro into a tree and it explodes on impact. So Dominic, who is the director, he forgot to yell cut. Fire was beginning to emerge from the car. Shanks, who was not wearing flame retardant clothing, claims that he was told not to leave the totaled automobile until the director said cut, and decided to stay inside the vehicle for about a minute because the director had not done so. Shank puts this down to Gennard being sidetracked by seeing stunts take place during his first major directing job. It turns out he was also shocked by the realism of the wreck that he had forgotten to shout cut. Finally, stunt coordinator Don Pike told Gennard to yell cut, and he did, just in time for Shanks to leave the wreckage. Now that's pretty crazy that Shanks stayed in the burning vehicle for that long, but I'm glad he got out of there and he's alive today. I'm glad that everything worked out, but I gotta applaud him for doing his own stunt work. That's not an easy thing to do, and it takes a toll on you. And Shanks also, he swam in that river in the beginning of Halloween 5, and the water was 30 degrees, and he crashed that car. So the Camaro that I mentioned earlier, he crashed it into a tree going 30 miles an hour, and he just narrowly got out of it before the flames got him. So again, dude, Shanks, holy cow, man. He was a real trooper in this film, but I think that's pretty cool that he did his own stunt work. I did not know this. Now, one last thing that I wanted to say is that the film Halloween 5 did have a good haunting ending. I remember seeing this ending on TV when I was a kid during one Halloween. I was just flipping through channels and I got to the scene where Jamie is walking by herself through the police building. There's no music at all, and then there's just blood and dead cops all over the place. And she walks to Michael's cell and the door's been blown open. He's gone, and you just hear Jamie, screaming, "No, no," and then the credits just start rolling. Dude, it was haunting. It really was. Again, you thought that the hero had won the day, but no, Michael is still out there again. And I did like the ending. I really did. Even though, when you know what's going to happen in 6, the ending to 5 is basically ruined. But it was a very haunting ending, so that I really did enjoy. Now, I have a last-minute note here that I wanted to talk about right quick, and that is, where should the Halloween franchise go from here? So I remember at the beginning of the recording, I said that I would give a brief little mention about the recent Blumhouse Halloween trilogy. So the Blumhouse trilogy was, Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends. Now, I absolutely loved Halloween 2018. I saw all 3 of these films in theaters, and the 2018 Halloween was amazing. It did an amazing job of capturing the feel of the original film, even though I disagreed with the 2018 film erasing Halloween 2. That never should have happened. Michael and Laurie are siblings. That should never change. It's a very important thing to the story. But anyway, then Halloween Kills and Ends just show up and they completely destroy the story that 2018 built. It's just like with Halloween's 5 and 6, in my opinion, destroying everything that 4 had built. It's like they didn't know where to take the story in Halloween Kills and Ends. From what I've read, originally 2018 was supposed to be a one-time thing, and part of me kind of wishes that they had stayed with that original idea. So the original plan was that apparently all 3 films were going to take place in the same night. And the first 2 films, 2018 and Halloween Kills, take place on Halloween night 2018. But then COVID happened, so they had to wait a couple of years to film Halloween Ends. And I guess they thought our actors are going to be older by this point, so they just decided to do a 4-year time jump for no reason. I'm like, the actors look exactly the same. You could have pulled off, having Halloween Ends take place in the same night. Like, I am planning on covering this trilogy in better detail some point down the road. I'm actually thinking about possibly covering this trilogy for for Halloween this year. But anyway, yeah, Kills and Ends just, Kills takes the story in a completely opposite direction, and then Halloween Ends just shows up, and it's like, what is even the story anymore? So thanks to Halloween Ends, the Halloween franchise is basically dead in the water right now, and I currently have no idea where the franchise even stands. But my main talking point that I have been saying for many, many years now is that I think the best thing they can do to save this franchise is to move on from Michael Myers. And I think the best course of action is to make a sequel to Halloween 4 that erases Halloween's 5 and 6. Like, the actress who played Jamie Lloyd, Danielle Harris, she has stated time and time again that she wants to return to the Halloween franchise. Like, when Blumhouse was making the trilogy, she showed big interest in wanting to come back, but they never brought her back, and that was a big crime in my opinion. Like, Jamie is a big important character in the Halloween franchise, and she deserves another shot at playing Jamie. I really think so. From what I've heard, she's a beautiful human being, and she treats all of her fans like family, so she's earned my respect. And I don't think it's too late to make a sequel to Halloween 4. Yes, the actress is 46 years old now, but I mean, they can just do a time jump or something, I don't think it's too late. I really do believe if they make a sequel to 4 and have her become the new killer, I think that would be a box office smash hit. I really think it would work. I think they should do maybe one film first, and if it does very well, then maybe do a full trilogy this time. I don't know, but at the very least, I think the franchise could be brought back to life if they go this route. Now, I wanted to give a quick mention to my favorite convention of all time, which is Flashback Weekend. So for any of you who don't know, Flashback Weekend is a horror-based Comic-Con that takes place in Rosemont, just outside of Chicago, and they do it once a year during the first week of August every summer. And I just bought my ticket yesterday for this year's convention. I am very excited. The guest list for this year's Flashback Weekend convention is absolutely crazy. Like, they have the actor who played Michael Myers in the Blumhouse trilogy. They have Tom Atkins, who played the main guy in Halloween 3. They have Alan Howarth, who did the soundtracks for Halloweens 2 through 6. And they recently just added director Sam Raimi, who directed the Evil Dead trilogy and the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man trilogy. And I'm going to be going to the convention this year on Saturday. I don't know if any of you listening are going there or not, but if you are, I'd love to get a chance to meet you and chat with you. So if any of you listening to this are planning on going, I will be at the Flashback Weekend convention on August 3rd, which is Saturday. I'll be there all day, and I'm planning on getting me as many pictures and autographs as possible. And this year, I am going to be dressing up as MacReady from John Carpenter's The Thing, because this year they have almost all the remaining cast members who are still alive from The Thing. And I'm definitely going to be buying a photo op to get a picture with all those guys the minute it becomes available. But yeah, that's just one last thing I wanted to give a quick shout out to. So that is going to wrap it up for the recording of covering Halloween 5. So again, I'm not the biggest fan of this film. I just think that the story just went in a very goofy direction. And I just think that the film really did waste Halloween 4's ending and made it pointless. And I think it ruined characters and it killed off people who should have lived. And the story just went in a direction that I didn't think was necessary. But again, that is just my opinion. And if you like Halloween 5, that is just fine with me. So I hope that you enjoyed this recording, and that I hope you learned some cool stuff about Halloween 5. I don't know what film I'm going to cover next, or even music for that matter. I am planning on covering some albums here soon, but I'm still in the process of trying to pick out what ones I want to cover. But whatever it is, it's going to be a lot of fun, and I think you'll really enjoy them. So until next time, my name is Christian Taylor, and you are listening to the Tales of Music and Film.